It's definitely an advantage, you know, just being able to see things in colour and basing your decisions on the colour of a word. Like, for example, I know when I name my kids, they'll be named after colours that I like. You know, there have been all these wonderful artists and musicians over the years that have had it, and people who taste shapes, I find that really incredible, you know, smell colours or, you know, see numbers in different colours, and I find it quite intriguing.
What happens is they're seeing things that aren't actually out there in the world, but are very tightly linked to, say, a sound or a smell. So when they smell something, they see something. They see something unusual, they see a colour. And it's unusual in the sense that we don't have it. Maybe you do.
Sydney is red. The concept of Sydney, though, is green with a bit of red. So the word Sydney, I think, because of the S, and it's a very dominant letter in that word, which is surprising though, because D is also dominant in that, and that hasn't got any, there's absolutely no purple in it whatsoever. But the concept of Sydney is green. I don't know why.
My name's Dr. Anina Rich. I'm an academic, a research academic at Macquarie University in the Macquarie Centre for Cognitive Science. I first started working on synesthesia in 1999 when I was doing my honours year under the supervision of Professor John Bradshaw, and we put a little paragraph at the bottom of the article saying we'd like to hear from anyone. Within the first week I had 120 letters from people saying this is exactly the experience that I have. I see colours for letters, or I have colours of odours and sounds, and the research kind of took off from there. For me, that's just synesthesia written in black. But for a number of my synesthetes, they would experience that as a very vividly coloured word.
Synesthesia is red. It's a mixing of the senses. The red mostly comes from the S, the letter S, because S is red. But then it changes, yeah, with the mixture of vowels together. A is black and E is orange, and it kind of creates this browny orange kind of thing.
I'm interested in the way the brain integrates information. And one of the ways to look at that is to study synesthesia. And so current research projects we've got running look at auditory synesthesia. Over the last sort of 20 years, we've had some tools for research that have allowed us to look at synesthesia more objectively. So for example, we can set up a situation where we can measure somebody's synesthesia by the impact it has on another task. Helen heard about our research group through a friend of hers. Initially, when we got Helen to come in, we asked her to listen to a number of different sounds. And in each case, what we're interested in is getting her to describe, and if she can, try and draw, either using pencil and paper or on the computer screen, as best she can, her experience. Synesthesia is of course, an internal sensation, so I can never see directly what she's seeing. But it gives us a start at kind of getting some insight in what type of experiences people have in response to sounds.
It's going to be hard to draw that one. It's mostly very yellow, and it's quite sharp to get the sound. There's no airy bits on here or spray-like texture.
I'm Rocco Cho. I'm from Taiwan, and I came to Australia to do my PhD last year. And I work with Dr. Anina Rich, and my research project is on auditory synesthesia. Anina's previous research has found that visual attention is a very crucial factor in the elicitation of grapheme color synesthesia. But the role of attention in auditory synesthesia is something which is not very well explored.
We're also running a study at the moment with people who have synesthetic experiences in response to odour.
That's a really nice smell.
And this is getting more towards the rarer forms of synesthesia. Helen has that form as well, and so what we were doing there was getting her to sniff unidentified chemical odours and try and represent again her experience. What we found is that with odours the experiences are much more complex, and so it takes quite a lot of time for people to both represent it and try and give us a good verbal description.
Smell? Smell is red. There's a little bit of orange in there as well, with the E, I think. Yeah. I'm Helen Cameron. Seafood has a really strong smell, and it's a smell that does not produce nice colours or patterns for me. So it was something earlier when I was younger, my horrible parents, they're not really horrible, fed us some smoked cod, I think it was, or salted cod. Yes, please. And the smell of it was just this really pungent, really fishy smell. From then until I was, in late high school, when I was maybe 18 or so, I just didn't eat seafood. I didn't eat fish, didn't eat prawns. I just couldn't stand the smell. Being at the fish markets on the other day was just a real sensory overload, really. It was, just these horrible muddy images in my head of this muddy colour. The smell of the oysters is, it gives me this really murky kind of, like the colour of the oyster, outside of the oyster, it's like that, but it's a liquidy, sort of, almost like a puff of smoke, but imagine smoke that was liquid in water, swirling through the water. It's like that, but it's these wisps of murky greys and browns and greens, and it's just the colour of mud in mangroves. Fruit markets, any day over fish markets. It's the smells, the colours, the smell of sweet fruit is just this really beautiful. Often the sweeter the smell, the colour becomes more tighter and it becomes a lot smoother, and it's sort of like this ribbon of yellow and red and orange, and like a really nice tight shiny piece of smell. Yeah. Oh, it's a really good one. The smell, you can tell it's really sweet, and because the sweet smells produce this really, really pretty ribbon of colour, and it's like a 3D pipe sort of streamer that goes through, and it's red and yellow, and it's just got this really pretty, it's just really smooth and liquidy, the smell. Up on the shelf, that'll be perfectly in line. Which is funny though, because I'm not a tidy person, But if I've got the time, I'll make it all perfect. I think that comes from publishing, picking up all the attention to detail and making sure everything's perfect. My mum would laugh at me if I said this, but I think it's a gift.
That was so funny. And I think it's got a lot to do with your brain. I don't believe that whole gift garbage. I think it's fucking rubbish.
So it's kind of fun having it with my sister and my mum. We can sort of talk about it. Yeah.
Melbourne is more dark greens and purples and black. There's a lot of black in Melbourne for me. Melbourne I find a bit more peaceful, and certainly out in the hills where I live is very peaceful and beautiful. I think I would feel very incomplete without being able to have colour and music happening at the same time, or even music in my head generally, or visions or art, images in my head that I want to produce. I think for me it would feel empty. I would feel a little bit devastated actually.
I find it very hard to imagine having these vivid visual experiences in response to sounds, for example. Nonetheless, these people have these wonderful experiences, and I think mostly it is wonderful. If anything, synesthesia is a gift rather than anything negative, and so I think we're missing out.